The story begins on Earth, centuries into the future, in a time when humanity has explored much of the known galaxy. The remnants of Earth's major nations have unified under a single banner, calling themselves the Terran League. Their mission has long been to expand human presence across the stars, ensuring the survival and prosperity of their species. Though they've faced hostile aliens and natural disasters along the way, they've always managed to adapt, to fight, and to thrive. Our protagonist, a seasoned explorer named Commander Doran, is aboard the starship Vigilant. Doran has been assigned to oversee a crucial mission, investigating a mysterious signal from an uncharted sector of space. For weeks, the signal has been sending strange, rhythmic pulses that scientists believe could be some form of communication. The only problem? The sector it's coming from is marked on Terran League charts as No Man's Reach, a place avoided by both humans and alien travelers alike due to its reputation for being perilous and, some say, cursed. Doran's crew is a mix of veteran officers and fresh recruits. There's Lieutenant Riel, an eager but inexperienced navigation officer, Dr. Hannah, the ship's pragmatic chief scientist, and Sergeant Vega, a grizzled security officer who's seen one too many skirmishes with alien raiders. Together, they prepare to enter No Man's Reach, with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. As the ship nears the source of the signal, strange occurrences begin. Instruments fail without reason, crew members report hearing faint whispers in their cabins, and the ship's artificial intelligence begins acting erratically. Doran keeps a level head, attributing it all to the peculiar electromagnetic fields in the area, but the unease grows among the crew. Sergeant Vega tightens security protocols, while Dr. Hannah becomes more fascinated than afraid, running every possible test on the mysterious signal. The Vigilant finally reaches the source, a massive, ancient alien structure floating in the void. It's unlike anything humanity has encountered before, a vast, spherical construct emitting an eerie blue light, its surface covered in intricate patterns that seem to shift when viewed for too long. The signal is stronger here, almost as if it's inviting them closer. Commander Doran orders a full scan of the structure. Dr. Hannah discovers that the patterns are a form of advanced code, possibly a language. Lieutenant Riel tries to map the area, but the structure's shifting nature makes it nearly impossible. The crew's tension reaches a peak when a loud, resonant hum reverberates through the ship, followed by a brief blackout. When power returns, something has changed. The alien structure has opened, revealing a glowing core inside. Doran decides that the only way to learn more is to send an away team to investigate. Though some crew members object, fearing the risks, Doran's resolve is firm. They must understand what they're dealing with. The away team, including Sergeant Vega, Dr. Hannah, and a handful of well-equipped personnel, boards a shuttle and sets off for the structure. As they approach, the glowing core's light intensifies. When the shuttle docks and the away team steps inside, they find themselves in a vast, cathedral-like chamber. The walls are covered with the same shifting patterns, which now seem to pulse in response to their movements. It's as if the structure is alive, aware of their presence. The team presses on, following a faint trail of lights leading deeper into the core. The air is thick with tension, and every sound echoes ominously. Suddenly, a voice, calm, deep, and entirely alien, speaks through their communicators. It's not words exactly, but they understand it nonetheless. It says, "Why have you come here, travelers?" Dr. Hannah tries to respond, but the voice cuts her off. "You are brave to venture into the realm of the final challenger. But bravery alone is not enough. You must prove your worth." With that, the chamber begins to shift, walls retracting to form a new path. The team realizes that they are being tested, but for what purpose remains unclear. Commander Doran, monitoring from the Vigilant, orders them to proceed cautiously. They have no idea what lies ahead, but turning back is not an option. They've come too far, and the truth of the signal, and of the final challenger, awaits them. As the team ventures deeper into the ancient structure, the air grows heavier, charged with an unexplainable energy that raises the hairs on the back of their necks. The glowing walls shift and ripple with light patterns that seem to pulse in time with their own heartbeats. The chamber they'd left behind is gone, the structure appears to have sealed it off the moment they advanced, leaving no choice but to continue forward. Sergeant Vega takes point, scanning the corridor with his high-frequency energy detector. The results are confusing. Every reading fluctuates wildly, suggesting the structure isn't made of any material known to humanity. Dr. Hannah trails close behind, her portable analyzer clutched tightly in one hand. Her curiosity outweighs her fear. She speaks aloud, more to herself than to the others. These patterns, they're not random. It's a form of communication, I'm sure of it. The core must be trying to send us a message, but the language is. She stops short, staring at her analyzer. Wait. I think it's using multiple layers of frequency. We might be able to decode it. Lieutenant Riel, keeping an eye on his portable NAV tracker, glances over at her. If you can figure out how to talk to it, that might help. Right now, this thing feels more like a maze than a message. Ahead, Vega raises a hand, signaling a halt. Movement, he says tersely. The team freezes, their lights sweeping the corridor. At first, there's only silence. Then a faint shimmer appears further down the hall, something barely perceptible, like a heat mirage. As they move closer, the shimmering coalesces into a humanoid shape. It isn't solid but instead appears to be made of the same shifting light as the walls. The figure speaks, though it has no mouth. The voice reverberates through their comms, smooth and resonant. You are in the domain of the final challenger. Few have come this far. What is it you seek? Dr. Hannah steps forward cautiously. We received a signal, she says, her voice steady despite her nerves. We came to understand its origin and purpose. Are you responsible for it? The figure seems to pause, its light shifting as if considering her words. The signal is a call. Only those prepared to face the challenge are drawn to it. Your presence here proves your resolve. But to learn its purpose, you must demonstrate your worthiness. Vega frowns. And what exactly does that mean? What kind of challenge are we talking about? Instead of answering, the figure raises an arm. The walls around them ripple again, and the corridor transforms. Suddenly, they're standing in what appears to be a vast, open arena. The floor is smooth and polished, the air buzzing with unseen energy. All around them, the light patterns shift and move, forming strange symbols and runes that hover in midair. The figure gestures toward the center of the arena. Prove your strength. Prove your unity. Prove your will to survive. As it speaks, other forms begin to appear, shimmering constructs shaped like humanoid warriors. They move fluidly, each armed with a glowing staff or blade. The constructs form a circle around the team, silently waiting for some signal to attack. Doran's voice comes through the comms, tense but calm. Away team, do not engage unless you have no choice. Let's see if we can reason with it first. Dr. Hannah raises her hands. Wait. We don't mean any harm. We're not here to fight. The glowing figure tilts its head, and for a moment, the constructs stand motionless. Harm is not the intent. The challenge is survival. To know the signal's purpose, you must endure. The constructs lunge. Vega shouts, defensive positions. He raises his weapon, firing a low-intensity energy pulse designed to disable rather than destroy. The first construct absorbs the shot, then retaliates with a swing of its glowing staff. Vega dodges, narrowly avoiding the strike. Riel ducks behind a glowing pillar that seems to rise from the arena floor. He scrambles to get his NAV tracker working again. This place keeps changing. I can't even tell where the walls are anymore. Hannah crouches low, trying to recalibrate her analyzer in the middle of the chaos. If she can decipher even a fragment of the symbols, she might be able to find a non-violent solution. "Just buy me a minute," she shouts. Vega and the other security personnel form a tight circle, using stun blasts to hold off the constructs. The constructs don't seem intent on killing, at least, not immediately. They aim to disarm, to disable, as if testing the team's resilience rather than seeking to destroy them outright. Doran's voice comes through again, sharp and urgent. "Pull back if you can. We're reading a spike in energy levels. Something's about to change." As if on cue, the entire arena shifts. The floor tilts, the light patterns rearrange, and the constructs freeze in place. The glowing figure reappears, standing in the center. Its voice is calm but unyielding. "You have proven you can endure the first trial. But this is only the beginning." The arena dissolves, and the team finds themselves back in the corridor. The shimmering figure remains, though its form seems dimmer, less defined. "If you continue, you will face greater trials. But only by completing them will you understand the signal." Vega lowers his weapon, breathing heavily. "Next time, a little more warning would be nice." Hannah looks down at her analyzer, which is now displaying a series of decoded symbols. "I think I'm starting to understand. These patterns, they're a sequence. A key. If I can decode the rest, we might figure out what this place really wants." Doran's voice crackles through the comms. "Good work, team. Get back to the shuttle. We'll regroup and analyze the data before deciding our next move." As the team retraces their steps, the corridor shifts again. The shimmering figure watches them leave, its form flickering. Its voice lingers in their minds, even after it disappears. "You are not the first to seek this knowledge. But perhaps you will be the last to truly understand." Back aboard the Vigilant, Doran orders a full debrief. Hannah spends hours decoding the new data, piecing together the meaning of the glowing symbols. The crew can't shake the feeling that the challenges they've faced are only the prelude to something much larger. The signal's purpose remains just out of reach, but one thing is certain: the final challenger isn't finished with them yet. The crew of the Vigilant didn't know what to expect next. Commander Doran spent hours in the conference room reviewing Dr. Hannah's early translations of the alien patterns. She'd managed to crack a few more sequences, revealing fragments of what seemed to be a warning. Words like collapse, protector, and final defense kept appearing, but their exact meaning remained elusive. Lieutenant Riel and Sergeant Vega joined Doran at the table. "We're getting more signals," Riel reported. "They're faint and intermittent, but they're coming from deeper within the structure. It's like it's calling us further in." Vega crossed his arms. "If we go back in, we need to be better prepared. Whatever those things were, they're not just for show." That test felt like a warm-up. Doran nodded. "Agreed. We'll recalibrate our equipment and boost our protective fields. If it's calling us in, then we'll go. But we'll make sure the next encounter isn't one-sided." Over the next several hours, the crew worked tirelessly. Dr. Hannah continued her analysis, often muttering to herself as she flipped through endless streams of data. Vega and the security team upgraded their shields and weapons, focusing on non-lethal solutions that would keep them protected without escalating hostilities. Lieutenant Riel adjusted the navigation systems, setting markers that would allow the team to backtrack quickly if things went south. By the time they were ready to re-enter the structure, the atmosphere aboard the Vigilant was tense but resolute. They had a plan now, at least, as much of a plan as they could manage in uncharted territory. The away team returned to the alien structure. This time, the entry felt different. The walls were less erratic, the light patterns calmer, as if the structure itself recognized them and was allowing them in. Doran found it unsettling. "It's like it knows us now," he murmured. Riel kept a close eye on his equipment. I'm still picking up faint readings. No movement yet. They proceeded cautiously. The shimmering humanoid figure from before reappeared, though its form was dimmer and more fragmented. Its voice came through their comms, still calm but tinged with something that almost resembled urgency. You have returned. Few reach this point. Are you prepared to face the next trial? Doran stepped forward. We're here to learn. What is it you want us to understand? The figure tilted its head slightly. Understanding comes through experience. Proceed. It gestured, and the walls behind it dissolved into an expansive chamber. Unlike the arena from the first trial, this place was more complex. Platforms hovered in midair, connected by shimmering bridges that appeared and disappeared at random. Strange, floating orbs of light drifted through the space, each pulsing with an inner glow. The air crackled with energy. This place is different, Hannah whispered. Her analyzer was lighting up with data. These orbs, they're some kind of energy nodes. I think they're part of the structure's control system. Vega eyed the floating platforms warily. So what's the challenge here? Jumping across these things? Taking out the orbs? Riel shook his head. I think it's more than that. If the first trial tested our ability to survive a direct confrontation, this one might be testing our ability to think, maybe even to work together. Hannah nodded. That would make sense. If the structure is measuring our worthiness, it might want to see more than brute force. It wants to see if we can adapt. Doran looked around, studying the platforms and the orbs. All right. Let's assume this is a puzzle. We need to figure out how to navigate this space without triggering whatever failsafe it has in place. Hannah, focus on the orbs and see if you can understand their patterns. Riel, map the platforms. Vega, keep watch and make sure nothing catches us off guard. The team fanned out. Hannah examined the closest orb, her analyzer running constant scans. They're emitting a pattern, almost like a heartbeat. If we can sync our movements with these pulses, we might be able to avoid setting off any defenses. Riel was busy marking the platforms on his portable display. Some of these bridges appear in regular intervals. I think if we move in the right sequence, we can reach the central platform without falling. Doran observed the floating platforms closely. So it's a timing puzzle. We move together, staying in sync with the orb's pulses, and we can get through. The first few steps were tense. The team followed Hannah's readings and Riel's guidance, moving carefully from one platform to the next. The shimmering bridges flickered but held as they crossed. The orbs pulsed steadily, their light growing brighter each time the team stepped onto the correct platform. This is working, Hannah said, a hint of excitement in her voice. The orbs are responding. It's like they're guiding us. But the challenge wasn't over. As they neared the center, the pattern of the orb's pulses shifted. What had been a steady rhythm now became erratic. The team paused on a large platform, trying to decipher the new sequence. Hold on, Riel said. The bridges are flickering faster. If we don't move at the right moment, we'll fall. Vega scanned the area. What about those pillars? They weren't there before. Indeed, glowing pillars had appeared on some of the distant platforms. Hannah's analyzer pinged. They're connected to the orbs. If we can activate them in the right order, it might stabilize the pattern. Doran nodded. We'll split up. Vega, take 2 of your team and activate that pillar on the left. Riel, guide us to the other 2. Hannah, stay here and keep analyzing the patterns. If we lose the sequence, we need to know how to get it back. The group split up, moving with precision. Vega and his security officers reached their pillar first. As soon as they activated it, the orb pulses grew steadier. Riel guided his group to the next pillar, triggering another stabilization. But just as they were about to reach the final pillar, the chamber's lights dimmed. The orb's glow intensified, and the shimmering figure reappeared, its fragmented form more solid than before. "You are close," it said. "But the final step requires unity. Prove that you are one." Before anyone could respond, the platforms began to shift rapidly. The team had to scramble to stay on stable ground. Doran shouted, "Stay calm. Focus on the pillars, finish the sequence." Vega's team barely managed to reach the last pillar, activating it just as the platform stabilized again. The orb's light faded, and a low, resonant hum filled the chamber. "You have passed the second trial," the figure said. "But the true test lies ahead." The chamber began to dissolve, and the team found themselves standing in a smaller, dimly lit room. In the center was a pedestal, and on it lay a strange object, a small, glowing cube that seemed to pulse with its own light. Dr. Hannah stepped forward cautiously. "What is it?" The figure did not answer directly. "Take it. Bring it with you. It is the key to the next step." Doran exchanged glances with his team, then nodded. "Hannah, take the cube. Let's get back to the ship and figure out what this thing does." Hannah carefully picked up the cube, and as she did, the figure's form flickered. "Return when you are ready. The final trial awaits." Back aboard the Vigilant, the team set to work analyzing the cube. It appeared to be some kind of advanced data storage device, but its encoding was unlike anything they'd seen before. Hannah was certain it held vital information, possibly even the key to understanding the structure's purpose and the mysterious signal. Doran stared out the viewport at the alien construct. "If this was just the second trial, I can't imagine what's next. But whatever it is, we'll be ready." Back aboard the Vigilant, the team worked tirelessly to understand the mysterious cube retrieved from the alien structure. The small, glowing object sat in the center of the ship's science lab, pulsating with a steady rhythm. Its light was soothing yet unnervingly deliberate, as if it was alive in some incomprehensible way. Dr. Hannah hadn't left her station since returning. The moment she placed the cube into the lab's containment unit, she began running every test imaginable. Spectrometry, energy scans, molecular analysis, none of them yielded a straightforward answer. The cube didn't seem to be composed of any known element, nor did it emit radiation in any conventional sense. Instead, it produced a unique energy field that defied classification. Commander Doran watched from the observation window. He hadn't yet asked the question on everyone's mind: what exactly was the next trial going to be, and how did the cube fit into it? The alien figure had said it was the key, but to what? The crew's focus was on understanding the device before they returned to the structure. After all, walking in blind again would be even riskier than the first 2 times. "Anything yet, Hannah?" Doran asked, stepping into the lab. Hannah shook her head, barely glancing up. "No patterns I can identify. The energy it emits isn't random, but it doesn't match any known code or frequency structure. Whatever it is, it's ahead of us. We're dealing with something far more advanced than anything we've encountered." Sergeant Vega entered, arms crossed. "So we have an alien puzzle piece and no idea what it unlocks. Feels like we're stumbling in the dark here." Riel chimed in from his console. "Maybe that's the point. The trials so far haven't been about understanding right away, they've been about survival and teamwork. Maybe this next one is about trusting that we'll figure it out as we go." Doran considered this. "You may be right. But we can't go in completely unprepared. Hannah, keep working on it. Vega, go over security measures again. Riel, get a fresh map of the structure's interior based on what we've seen. Let's make sure that when we return, we're as ready as we can be." For the next several hours, the crew focused on preparations. Hannah continued scanning the cube, trying new approaches to decipher its patterns. She recorded the light pulses, fed them into the ship's advanced decryption algorithms, and even attempted to interact with it by broadcasting simple signals back. None of it produced a clear response, though she did notice a subtle change. The pulses seemed to shift slightly whenever someone approached it, as if it were aware of its surroundings. Meanwhile, Vega's team reviewed the footage from their previous encounters in the structure. They studied the behavior of the light constructs, their attack patterns, and the way the environment changed during the trials. They updated their equipment, tweaking their shields to better absorb the structure's energy and refining their weapons to stun rather than damage. Riel, on the other hand, tried to predict the next trial's layout. Using the data they'd gathered, he created a model of the structure, filling in the blanks with logical assumptions. "It's likely the next chamber will be even more complex," he said, pointing to a holographic projection of the structure's interior. "If the first trial was about defense and the second was about coordination, the third might test our decision-making. We'll need to be quick and precise." By the time the crew was ready to return, the tension on the ship was palpable. Everyone knew the stakes were high. The trials weren't just about completing a mission, they were about proving humanity's capability to face the unknown. The signal that had led them here was more than a call for help, it was a challenge, and the outcome could change their understanding of the galaxy. As the away team suited up, Doran called for a final briefing. The room was silent as he spoke. "We've faced 2 trials, and we've proven that we can adapt and endure. This next one will be the hardest yet. Remember, this isn't just about survival. It's about showing that we have what it takes to understand, to work together, and to overcome. Stick to your roles, trust each other, and we'll make it through. Let's go." The shuttle ride back to the structure was quiet, each member of the team lost in their thoughts. The glowing construct loomed ahead, its surface shimmering with patterns that seemed to shift in anticipation. As the shuttle docked, the ship's lights dimmed for a moment, then stabilized. The crew disembarked and entered the structure's corridor once more. The figure was waiting for them. Its form was brighter now, more defined. "You have returned," it said. "You hold the key. Now you will face the final trial." Doran stepped forward. "What is this key supposed to unlock? What are we here to prove?" The figure's voice resonated through the chamber. "The key will guide you. The trial will reveal your purpose. Only by proceeding will you understand." Before Doran could ask more, the walls shifted, opening into a vast new chamber. This one was unlike the others. The floor was covered in intricate, glowing patterns that formed a massive, interconnected web. In the center of the chamber stood a pedestal similar to the one where they had found the cube. This time, however, the pedestal was surrounded by a shimmering barrier of light. "The cube," Hannah whispered. "It reacts to its surroundings. Maybe it's meant to interface with that pedestal." The figure spoke again. "The trial is balance. Show that you can maintain equilibrium in the face of chaos." As it finished speaking, the chamber began to move. The floor's patterns shifted, creating a constantly changing pathway. Platforms rose and fell, the glowing web beneath them pulsing faster and faster. The entire space felt alive, and the team had to fight to stay upright. "We need to get the cube to that pedestal," Doran shouted. "Hannah, take the lead. Riel, guide us through the shifting platforms. Vega, keep us covered in case something else shows up." Hannah held the cube tightly, feeling its pulse quicken as she moved toward the center of the chamber. Riel called out directions, his eyes locked on the navigation display. The team had to jump from one moving platform to another, timing their movements perfectly. The barriers of light shifted constantly, threatening to cut them off at every turn. Vega kept his weapon ready, scanning the chamber for any sign of an ambush. Though the light constructs from before didn't appear, the sense of danger was just as strong. The shifting platforms, the glowing barriers, the pulsing energy of the chamber, it was all designed to test their ability to remain steady and focused under pressure. As Hannah reached the final platform, the pedestal's barrier flickered. She carefully placed the cube onto the pedestal. Immediately, the chamber's motion slowed, and the glowing patterns began to stabilize. The light barriers disappeared, and the figure reappeared, standing before them. "You have shown balance," it said. "You have proven your ability to endure, to coordinate, and to maintain harmony in the face of disorder. The key has unlocked the path forward." The walls opened again, revealing a smaller chamber beyond. In the center was a simple console, its surface covered in the same glowing patterns. The figure gestured toward it. "The answers you seek lie within. Approach, and you will learn the truth." Doran stepped forward, his heart pounding. The team followed close behind. They had survived 3 trials, each testing a different aspect of their humanity. Now, they stood at the threshold of understanding what the signal truly meant and what the final challenger had intended for them all along. As Commander Doran and the team stepped into the new chamber, the atmosphere shifted. The air felt thicker, tinged with a faint hum that resonated in their chests. Unlike the previous trials, this room was silent and still, no shifting platforms, no glowing constructs, just a single console in the center. Its surface glimmered faintly, the glowing patterns on it static for the first time since their arrival. Dr. Hannah approached the console cautiously, her analyzer clutched in her hand. "The cube's energy signature is fading. I think whatever it did, it's completed its purpose. This console, it feels more like a destination than another test." Vega stayed close, his weapon lowered but still ready. "I'll feel a lot better once we know exactly what it's going to do." Lieutenant Riel nodded as he ran a scan of the chamber. No moving parts this time. No hidden traps. It's quiet. Too quiet. Doran stepped forward, his eyes fixed on the console. "Then let's not keep it waiting. Hannah, see if you can interface with it. Whatever answers we came for, they're here." Hannah placed her hands on the console's surface. It was cool to the touch, but as she pressed lightly, the patterns began to shift. A low vibration ran through the floor, and the light around them dimmed slightly. The glowing patterns arranged themselves into lines of text, alien symbols that, after a moment, began to morph into something recognizable. She stared at the display, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's translating. I can understand it. Give me a moment." The crew watched as Hannah read through the lines, her eyes widening with each passing second. Finally, she turned to the others. It's a record. A message from whoever built this place. It says that long ago, a great civilization stood on the brink of annihilation. They created this structure, this final challenger, as a test for anyone who might follow. They wanted to ensure that only those who could endure, adapt, and cooperate would gain access to their greatest knowledge. Riel tilted his head. "Their knowledge? Of what?" Hannah continued, her voice growing more excited. "Not just knowledge, technology. They left behind the blueprints for a machine capable of stabilizing entire star systems, of preventing catastrophic collapses. They called it a guardian engine. They believed it was the only thing that could keep the universe itself from falling into chaos. But they also knew it was dangerous. In the wrong hands, it could be turned into a weapon. That's why they built these trials, to make sure only those who could prove their worthiness would ever gain access to it." Vega frowned. "So we passed their tests. Does that mean they're going to hand over this guardian engine now? Just like that?" Hannah shook her head. "It's not that simple. The final part of the message says the guardian engine is not fully complete. The builders, they were wiped out before they could finish it. They entrusted the last stages of its creation to those who passed the trials, believing that whoever reached this point would have the wisdom and strength to use it properly. Doran folded his arms. So we're supposed to finish what they started. Take on the responsibility of building this guardian engine and deciding how to use it. The shimmering figure reappeared, standing near the console. Its voice was calm, but there was a new gravity in its tone. You have proven your strength, your unity, and your balance. Now you must prove your vision. The knowledge of the guardian engine is yours, but only if you accept the burden that comes with it. Will you take this responsibility? Will you complete what was begun? The room fell silent. Doran looked at his team, at Hannah, still absorbed in the data on the console, at Riel, scanning the chamber for hidden dangers, at Vega, always ready for a fight but steady and reliable. Each of them had brought something essential to their journey. Each had proven they could handle the unexpected. But this wasn't just about surviving anymore. It was about making a choice that would affect not only their crew but potentially the entire galaxy. Hannah spoke first. Commander, this technology, if it's as powerful as they say, it could change everything. It could stop the kind of natural disasters that have wiped out colonies, stabilize unstable regions of space, even prevent wars. But it's also a huge responsibility. If we take this on, we have to see it through. Vega grunted. And we have to trust ourselves not to misuse it. Power like that, it can be tempting. Dangerous. Riel added, but if we don't take it, someone else might come along and pass the trials. Maybe someone without the same intentions. If we've proven we're capable, isn't it better that we're the ones who finish this? Doran nodded slowly. You're all right. We didn't come here expecting to find this, but now that we have, we can't walk away. If we're going to complete the Guardian engine, we need to do it carefully, responsibly. For the good of everyone, not just ourselves. The figure watched them silently. Finally, it extended a hand toward the console. The choice is made. The knowledge is yours. With it comes the final challenge, not of survival, but of wisdom. May you prove worthy of the trust placed in you. The patterns on the console shifted again. A new series of symbols appeared, and Hannah's analyzer immediately began decoding them. It was a blueprint, an intricate, detailed design for the Guardian engine. It included instructions, materials, and the locations of key components spread across distant star systems. Completing the project would require years of effort, but it was all there, waiting to be realized. The figure's form began to fade. Your trials here are complete. The knowledge you now hold is the key to protecting what remains. Use it wisely. As the figure vanished, the chamber's light returned to its previous brightness. The console's display remained steady, the blueprint still visible. Doran turned to his crew. This isn't the end of our mission. It's the beginning of something much bigger. We have the knowledge now. We have a chance to make a real difference. Let's get back to the ship and figure out our next steps. The team moved as one, their resolve solidified. They had come seeking answers, and they had found them. But with those answers came a responsibility they could not ignore. The Guardian engine was now their charge, and the future of the galaxy rested in their hands. The Vigilant hovered just outside the alien structure, the crew deep in discussion as they prepared to embark on what they now understood would be a monumental undertaking. The blueprint contained not only the technical specifications for the Guardian engine but also a series of encoded instructions detailing where to find the remaining components scattered across the galaxy. This wasn't a project that could be completed in isolation. It would require resources, allies, and a great deal of time. Commander Doran stood at the main observation deck, looking out at the faint shimmer of the structure's surface. It had been silent since the team's return, its trials complete, as if it had gone dormant. The burden they'd been handed weighed heavily on him. He knew what was at stake. This wasn't just about technology or power. It was about protecting the fragile balance of the universe and ensuring the mistakes of the past weren't repeated. Dr. Hannah joined him, her tablet in hand. "I've been going through the data again. The creators of the Guardian engine were incredibly advanced, far beyond anything we've encountered. But they were also flawed. They placed so much faith in their tests, in the idea that only the worthy would pass. What they didn't account for was time, how their circumstances would change, how the universe would change." Doran turned to her, his expression serious. "And now we're in their place. They built the framework, but they never saw it finished. That's on us now." Hannah nodded. "Exactly. They gave us the keys, but they didn't leave a guidebook for how to use them. The blueprint is brilliant, but we have to decide what it's for. Is it a shield? A weapon? A tool to reshape entire systems?" They trusted someone would come along who could figure that out. Now it's up to us. Lieutenant Riel and Sergeant Vega approached, having just returned from a systems check. Vega still looked skeptical. "If we go chasing these components, we'll be venturing into uncharted territory. No telling what's out there. We might find more than we bargained for." Riel offered a small smile. "That's kind of the point, isn't it? This is uncharted territory in every sense. We're not just exploring space, we're exploring responsibility. It's dangerous. Sure, but it's also the chance to make things better." Doran considered both perspectives. Vega was right to be cautious, the stakes were enormous. But Riel's optimism carried weight too. This was an opportunity to forge something new, something that could change the course of human history. "We're not rushing into this blind," Doran said finally. "We take one step at a time. First, we decipher the full blueprint. We identify where these components are and what it'll take to recover them. Then we make a plan, something careful, deliberate." Hannah gestured toward her tablet. "I've already started decoding the locations. Most of them seem to be in abandoned systems or places marked as no-fly zones. The builders must have hidden them intentionally. We'll need to tread carefully." "And what happens when we find them?" Vega asked. "Let's say we get all the pieces. What then? We build this thing and hope for the best." Doran's gaze shifted back to the structure outside. "We'll know more as we progress. Right now, we focus on understanding. If we can complete the Guardian engine, we'll have to decide how it's used. That decision can't be made lightly. We'll need to involve more than just our crew, scientists, diplomats, maybe even the Terran League leadership. This is bigger than us." Vega still looked doubtful, but he nodded. "As long as we're careful. I don't like the idea of stumbling into something we can't control." The crew spent the next several days aboard the Vigilant, deep in preparation. Hannah continued her analysis of the blueprint, piecing together how the components would fit and function. Riel refined the ship's navigation charts, identifying the fastest and safest routes to the locations listed in the data. Vega oversaw the upgrades to their defensive systems, anticipating potential threats from hostile aliens or natural hazards. The entire ship buzzed with activity, each crew member playing a part in the larger mission. When they finally set out, their first destination was a derelict star system known only as Epsilon 3. It was a place of legend among spacers, rumored to be the site of an ancient battle so devastating that no one dared to approach it anymore. Ships that ventured there often reported strange sensor readings, flickering lights, and inexplicable malfunctions. Some said it was cursed. But the blueprint clearly indicated that one of the Guardian engine's critical components was hidden in the system's largest asteroid belt. As the Vigilant approached Epsilon 3, the crew braced for the worst. The stars around them seemed dimmer, and the asteroid field loomed ahead like a graveyard of broken rocks. The ship's scanners picked up faint energy signatures, remnants of the ancient conflict that had left this place in ruin. Yet amid the debris, a single signal stood out, a steady, pulsing beacon matching the Guardian engine's blueprint. Doran gave the order to proceed cautiously. The vigilance shields were raised, and Vega's team stood ready at the weapon stations. Hannah monitored the signal's frequency, ensuring they were on the right track. Riel guided the ship through the dense field, dodging large chunks of rock and navigating around strange, flickering anomalies. The beacon led them to a massive asteroid, larger than any of the others. Its surface was riddled with craters and ancient scars, but deep within one of its caverns, the team detected a structure. It wasn't as grand as the final Challenger's construct, but it bore the same intricate patterns. This was clearly the builder's work. Hannah and Vega led the away team into the cavern, their suits equipped with advanced sensors and cutting tools. The interior of the asteroid was a labyrinth of tunnels, many of them collapsed or filled with debris. But eventually, they found it, a crystalline core embedded in the rock, glowing faintly with the same pulsating light as the cube they had retrieved earlier. "This is it," Hannah said, awe in her voice. "One of the core components. We'll need to extract it carefully. It's been dormant for who knows how long." Vega's team set to work, using precision tools to free the core from its rocky prison. The process was slow and delicate, but after several tense hours, they succeeded. The core was transferred to a reinforced containment unit and brought back to the Vigilant. As the ship left Epsilon 3, Doran felt a sense of accomplishment mixed with apprehension. This was just the first piece. The blueprint detailed several more, each in a location just as dangerous, if not more so. Yet the crew had proven they could handle it. Step by step, they were bringing the Guardian engine closer to completion. Over the following months, the Vigilant traveled to the far corners of the galaxy. Each location presented new challenges: hostile alien forces, treacherous environmental conditions, and remnants of the builder's old defenses. But the crew adapted and persevered, growing stronger and more unified with each success. They became not just a team, but a family bound by their shared purpose. When they finally had all the components, the process of assembly began. The Guardian engine was more than a machine, it was a monumental symbol of what humanity could achieve when pushed to its limits. As the pieces came together, the crew marveled at the elegant design, the way every part fit perfectly, as though it had been waiting for them all along. In the end, the Guardian engine wasn't just about the trials they had passed or the challenges they had overcome. It was about the choices they had made, the decision to trust each other, to accept the burden of responsibility, and to create something greater than themselves. The final Challenger's tests had not just proven their worth, they had forged a new understanding of what it meant to be human in an infinite universe. And as the Guardian engine came to life, its soft glow filling the Vigilance hangar, Commander Doran stood with his crew, knowing they had fulfilled the promise of those who came before. They had turned the universe's final challenge into humanity's greatest hope.